Hello, I'm Jose Pedro Díaz Miñarro, and this is my final exam for the course of Resources in ICT 2021-2022. It is divided into two parts. The first one, which consists of the teaching period that I've created, and the second one, which is about answering a few questions. Before starting to explain the period itself, I wanted to show what are the goals that it is intended to achieve. The following standards have been extracted from the 2014 Primary Education Curriculum and correspond to the Block 2, called Life in Our Planet, belonging to the second cycle of primary education. The rubric for these goals, the guidance for its evaluation, and the standards of the curriculum are the following. For example, the first goal, the kingdom, from a general and integrated perspective, correspond to the 2.1 standard, classifying living beings into animal kingdom, plant kingdom, etc. For explaining the teaching period, I'm going to use the ACAD framework, which divides the content into set design, epistemic design, and social design. However, before going straight forward into it, a brief summary of the project is that it is divided into three activities: creating a conceptual map about the kingdoms of nature using MainMeister, making a poster including a table classifying animals and plants using Adobe Creative Cloud, and finally, in groups, draw different ecosystems and the effect of the human being on them using DrawChat. I'm going to start by explaining the epistemic design, the task, what I'm proposing the students to do. The work that they will have to carry out is divided into three parts. The part 1, in which they will have to create a conceptual map about the 5 natural kingdoms and then show them to the rest of the class. The second one, in which they will have to create a poster including a chart addressing how 3 given animals and 3 plants belong to different categories. And the third one, in which the kids will have to choose and draw a natural ecosystem and then choose and draw another one before and after the intervention of the human being. For all of that, the social design, what in fact is the social structure that we are going to use, is individual work for the first 2 tasks, along with presentation of the work to the rest of the class, and group work for the final task, in which the groups will be composed of minimum 3 and maximum 5 students. The aim of this organization is to introduce the content in both ways, individual and cooperative, to foster on the one hand specialized work and individual investigation of content, and on the other hand discussion and debates about that content. Finally, there is the set design, the one that references how we use the space and materials. For the first activity, there are going to be different elements. Firstly, a video that the teacher will use to introduce the content of the Kingdoms of Nature. The video is Los Cinco Reinos by La Profe Noemi, followed by an explanation by the teacher. For the realization of this first activity, the students will use a web called MindMeister. The set will be the class and the activity will take 2 sessions, the first half of the first one for explaining the content and task, and the rest for developing the task. For the second task, there will be an explanation on the types of animals and plants using complementary materials such as the video Alimentación, Reproducción y Clasificación de los Animales by Claudia Muñoz to complement the explanation on the classification of animals, and the video Clasificación de las Plantas from CNDV Infantil to complement the explanation about plants. For the realization, the kids will have to use the web Adobe Creative Cloud for developing the poster. The set will once again be the class, and the temporalization will take the same as the previous activity. For the third one and last activity, an introduction to the concept of ecosystem will be made through some posters created by the teacher and an appropriate explanation. The kids will use DrawChat, the set will be the class and their home, as it is an online cooperative tool, and the temporalization will take the 3 sessions. Regarding the desirable results of the 3 tasks, these are pictures of how the final product should look like. For the first activity, an schema including the 5 kingdoms and their characteristics. For the second activity, the poster including the table. And for the third one, the drawing of the ecosystem before and after the human being. Regarding the ethical problems that can be drawn from this design are perhaps the abuse of ICTs in the school or family context and children's network security, which can be affected by letting children freely access the web. For the ethics classifying of these 3 tools that the kids are going to use when doing the activity, the rubric is the next one, which is an adaptation of the rubric used in the ethic task. As you can see, it assesses the accessibility, functionality, privacy, and social presence in terms of good, minor concerns, and serious concerns, which applies to the tools that we use good like this. As for the added value, I can see that as digital tools, they require using technology, which will serve to promote the practical and critical uses of technologies besides the recreational ones. It also helps to create a more dynamic and interactive learning environment that is not just based on paper and pen, which will help to stimulate students' motivation and also generating new scenarios for learning and discovering new tools for children. In addition to those discoveries and kinda immediate benefits, working with technologies provides them with adaptation to the future works, which would most likely be based on technologies. Not many changes have to be made for this project to be carried out from home. This is thanks to the fact that designer activities can be done in paper format in case of not having internet, and to additional material presented in the form of videos and posters which offer the necessary content to carry out the activities. The only thing that would have to be modified is the last presentation, which instead of being face-to-face will be done by a way of video conference or through writing about the task. In this last case, the standard that could be evaluated instead of fluency would be correctness and good structuration of the content, but we will see the evaluation now. The evaluation of this educational project will be out of 10 and will correspond to a didactic unit in substitution of a typical writing exam. As it is made up of 3 progressive and gradual tasks, the first one will have a score of 2 points, the second one of 3 points, and the third one of 5 points. The first task will be evaluated by giving a maximum of 1 point to the 2 aspects of it. Firstly, the content of the animal kingdom, and secondly, the scheme or conceptual map, using the following rubric. The second task will be evaluated using this rubric that assesses the animal content, the plant content, and the table content, each one associated with 1 point to reach the 3 points that it counts in the final mark. And finally, the third one, using this other rubric, evaluating the first drawing, the second drawing and its 2 parts, and the exposition that takes 2 points because it's the most important part of the project. First of all, this project will give them the opportunity to expand their PLE, incorporating in it some of the tools they use to carry out activities, useful for creating posters, drawings, and diagrams, which can be useful for both taking notes and in their personal lives. Secondly, the social nature of the last part of the project can serve to improve the students' interpersonal relationships in the classroom, the students' most recurring social environment, making it a place of positive socialization and promoting healthy prosocial development. Finally, exposure can help them with frequently used personal skills, like quick decision making, public speaking, and reduce the chance of problems like social anxiety. After thinking a lot about those elements that I would like to include in my personal learning environment, I have chosen these 5 elements that refer to action or attitudes to act in certain ways. First of all, the element of reflect or reflection as a way of gaining more insight on everything we do to generate and integrate knowledge. The second that I've chosen is to evaluate or evaluation, which is the habit of assessing your own work and its results on a regular basis in order to improve practice and reflect about what should be changed or not. The third one is to organize, managing the time, space, and the structuration of resources that you have or need in the best way possible, and change it if once evaluated it results not being effective. The next one would be leading, as taking the main role when doing something makes you focus and to give your best regarding the learning. And the last one, in my opinion, is to innovate, change, try to always find new ways of improving, which is closely related with the element of reflection and evaluation, as this is what you try to do after them. The first one that I've chosen is to be an expert in digital education content, which refers to the ability of the teacher to combine feedback to use ICTs in order to lead to desirable learning outcomes. It is the most relevant aspect of the teaching competence for a digital world, at least the basis to it. The utilization of different tools as well as the gamification helps to understand the use of applying technologies to achieve these results. The second aspect is to be an expert in enhanced organizational or personal learning context, PLE, which includes being able to manage ICT in a way of combining it along with teaching experiences and scientific evidence to expand our PLE in a both individual and collective way, which is useful regarding teaching competencies as it is a way of continuously improving. Something that led me to develop this competence has been the tendency to Check my colleague's blog, the encouragement to search for additional information, as well as the creation of my blog, in which I can include and record my experiences. Finally, there is the competence of trying to be sensitive to the use of technology from the social commitment perspective. That is, knowing the relevance of the ICTs in the students and in the school, and use them to train critical and capable students, knowing how to understand and act in the face of the possible tendencies of the tools. In this course, the task of ethics really helped me to develop this, as it was a way of creating a habit of reflecting about all the aspects of the tools and try to see their weaknesses and strengths to act consequently. In my opinion, I should get an 8. I believe that I've dedicated the appropriate time and effort to a subject and the tasks. However, it has not always been fully reflected in the results of the task due to the fact that the work is done in groups and not only do they depend on one factor, and I also have not always focused well on some aspects since they are very new to me. This subject has been very complete, and truth be said, I don't know if the most important role will be the analyst or the journalist. I think that the journalist is by a small difference, since asking the classmates their opinion of the task and the content, summarizing everything the group has done for a week, and in general making the most important weekly entry on the blog is a great responsibility, and in the end is the one that reflects the work to the public. In addition, this is the one that brings the most benefits, since the ability to act in front of the public, to sell oneself, and to take ideas and learn from the other works is something highly demanded in the work in which we live. Nevertheless, the most challenging role for me is the analyst, because having to objectively evaluate your colleagues, who are also friends, is extremely difficult for me. However, it is a competence that has to be developed, because there is no doubt that in the future, as a teacher and as a person, you must objectively evaluate people and their work efficiently. So this is the end of our journey, and I hope you liked the video, and I wanted to thank the teacher of this course, Linda Castañeda, for being there for answering our questions, and also my classmates that have been so supportive with me when I was asking them for how to do the video. So bye.